Someone tells you invest into the stock market for the next 40 years, you have $1 million, you think that's a good idea because you don't know anything else, you do that. Someone tells me, oh, invest into a business or real estate and get $200 a month in cash flow from a rental property and $1,000 a month in cash flow from this business. I think it's a good idea because I never heard nothing. I do that. We're going to end up in different places. You'll probably still be in your job in 40 years and I'll be retired on the beach at 25 because we just happen to get two different pieces of information.
You're listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. It's about time that we invest more in our financial literacy and work towards building generational wealth. If you think you're ready to do the same, then you've come to the right place. Alex, Marlon, y'all ready? Let's get this bread.
What's good, everybody? It's Alex Kamui here, and we are back with episode 119 of the Money Monopolizers podcast, and I'm here with my co-host, Marlon Walls. Marlon, you know it's already coming. How are you doing today?
Dang. I'm doing good, man. I don't have much to add to that, but I know I'm super excited for this episode. This is gonna be a good one though. After thinking about it, I think we're gonna have a lot of value for this episode. It's gonna be well worth it. So I'm doing pretty good overall. That's it.
Come on, man. I know you got something.
How are you doing?
No, it's not about me.
No, it's about you. It's about us. You're right.
So this is it's nothing in a personal life. Nothing. Obviously, nothing.
I'll let you know in about a week.
No, man, I'm doing well. I think again, 2022. We talked about it last week, but it's a very exciting year for us, and already being able to see some of the things that are happening for the new year. Some of the things we've been planning are starting to come to fruition.
Yes, that's a fact.
So I know last episode we talked so much about. It wasn't necessarily a goal setting episode, but it was more so about what is stopping you from setting certain goals or setting certain targets, right? And I've been doing a lot of thinking and stuff like that about what I actually want to go for this year, and that was a really, I think, a good episode for me to kind of restructure what I really want to achieve this year. So yeah, we got a lot of things cooking up, and I told y'all last week, I was looking to invest a large amount of money into commercial cleaning and stuff like that, as far as marketing and stuff for those kinds of customers. So that's some stuff that I've been kind of working on and doing as well, which we'll talk about in a second for the business updates. But other than that, personally, man, I'm just so blessed. Every week I feel like just being able to come on here and do this show, it's a blessing, man. I'm happy, man. Life is good. Being able to record the podcast. I mean, what is it? It's Thursday, bro. I mean, it's it's funny because when we was going to record this episode, we had said because the place is gonna be closed this weekend, and he was like, oh well, let's just do it on Thursday. I was like, oh, okay.
In fact, now because I'm glad you said this.
A few months ago, it was like, hey, it wasn't no Thursday recording happening. So
I'm gonna tell you, so the whole situation with that is crazy, because I knew I was gonna be going on Saturday, and I knew this was on Wednesday. We were talking about all this. So I'm like, okay, I need to find a way to, for one, get a haircut.
Yeah.
I asked him, can we do Thursday at first? Because I wanted Thursday because I was going to try to get us to do Friday. I couldn't do the hair. He said he was all booked out for Thursday, and then I asked him, is anything available for Wednesday, which was that day when I went out there to go get the cut. When I was talking to you
yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday. And he said, I got one opening left. It's at 10:30. It was 9:57 when he said that. I said, I'll be there. That you don't take that for granted, because any other like you said a few months ago, you can't drop stuff at the drop of a dime and rearrange your schedule to go do these things. Like going to get a haircut and within a 30 minutes notice in the middle of a workday, it's not feasible. No. Driving 3 hours one way, so a 6-hour round trip on a Thursday is not feasible.
Yeah.
So definitely don't take that for granted. I would think for me or you, because this is not everybody's normal. So I am very grateful just to be in the position that we're in, and grateful for what's to come. It's just crazy.
You know, it's funny because I always think about it. I'm like, man, am I getting out of touch with reality?
I thought about that.
And like, because I'm so used to this lifestyle now in terms of entrepreneurship, lifestyle, financial freedom. Oh man, it's amazing. For those that haven't been able to indulge quite yet, it's absolutely amazing. And I'm just like, man, am I like out of touch with reality? Because it's like people be talking about certain things, and it's like, yeah, I don't really know. Like I can really, because like, bro, I only worked a job for 2 years, really 2 full years. And I remember someone was telling me about the Christmas party they was having at their job, and I was like, oh, I've only really been to one Christmas party. So it's kind of like, I don't know, man. It's weird. It's weird just because it's like, I understand some things about like working a job in that lifestyle, but at the same time, so much of it is like, I feel like it's been so long that like, I don't even know, man. I can't relate to a lot of the things people talk about with, I don't know. That sounds bad, but like,
no. I think so. It may sound bad at this day and age, right at this time.
Yeah.
Thing without it, I realize is that this is going to become the new norm in a way.
It is already,
because so I heard on a podcast one time. There was like it was like a live podcast, and they were like interviewing the room, and one of the people in the room was a 14-year-old entrepreneur. And he was pretty much talking about how his plan was to like achieve financial freedom at age 18. And I'm like, yo, that like, because we're all given the same information, like working a job for 20 years straight, it's gonna become the new abnormal. Like, why you did that? Dang, that's wow. Why would you do that? Like, that's gonna become the new thing because people are all gaining access to this new information. So us working the job for the time that we did, it was almost like going to community college and getting a 2-year degree. So you work for 2 years, and that was your entire stint. But that's not your reality in a way. Like, that's not your norm. That was just a stepping stone to something to the next stage. So I can't necessarily relate the way that
someone that's been there that long.
Exactly. Like that's everybody else's norm, but that's just not our norm.
Right.
Because we just took a different path. But the path we took is something that's going to become a lot more commonplace with the information that's available.
Yeah. Which will either be a good thing or a bad thing.
Right. True.
I think, I don't know, it just depends on, because, you know, right now, I'll be honest, it's hot to be an entrepreneur because the, you know, economy we're in a good times, right?
No doubt.
Everything, even though it's completely manipulated and frothy, and the market should have definitely, you know, probably took a tank like last year or 2020 at least. But when things here, I'm a firm believer in the fact that bad times create strong people create good times create weak people create bad times. So it's a cycle.
It's a cycle, yeah.
And right now we're just in the point of good times that were created by strong people, and there's a lot of weak people around. There's a lot of people that will not actually do well when a lot of people gonna get caught with their pants down when the market really does. We gonna see for real. Right. If fortune, I'm gonna be real. I mean, at some point the market does need to take a tank. We talking stocks, real estate, at all, even if it's a correction to some degree, because it's a natural cycle of things. You gotta flush the bad apples out. There's a lot of rotten apples. A lot of rotten apples. You know how I know? It's because like it's crazy. Whenever you walk around and you talking to people and people telling me, yeah, I'm getting into real estate. Yeah, I'm gonna be a real estate agent. It's just like what happened in 2008. Not obviously not the same cause, but the same thing. Good times created people that thinks they could just do everything, and it's like the same thing. I'm seeing some of the same signs. One thing that's really, and I don't want to drag on this, but like seeing you know people you know buying some of the houses that they're buying and doing some of the things that they're doing, buying the cars that they're buying, the times we're in, it's kind of like, bro, when it crashes, it's gonna crash hard. So I'm just kind of looking out for that. So I think everybody needs to make sure that you have a belt on, so that when the time comes that your pants don't fall. Anyways, that was just something I was thinking of. But yeah, let's kind of get into our business updates for the show before we get into the episode.
It's time. Keep them posted.
Second week of January, second week of the year. I wonder if we should just count every week. Second week of the year.
For 32nd week of the year.
Yeah. Second week of the year. You know, how have things been for you, you know, in the business, and what's kind of the outlook now at this point?
By the time this is released, we will have closed at least on 10 different vehicles. So, because we have a contract that is underway at the time we're saying this, but I'm so confident in the fact that we're going to have this contract done, because one thing that we talked about with the investor is that they said, man, listen, we're ready to run. Like, so as soon as we get the contract in place, we are running. Like, that's going to be the first 10 vehicles underway in Houston, like we're running out of the airport and everything. So that's something that's pretty much doubling our fleet, because we've been sitting at around that 10 to 12 mark for a minute. But we're about to double the fleet altogether, and that's just from that one partner. Now, if we get the other people to come on board, then it'll be a whole different story. Now we'll be looking at around like 2025 as far as like the number of vehicles that we have in total. So that is where we are currently. I'm already gonna proclaim that because it's nothing but a signing a contract at this point.
Yeah.
So that's a great first step toward like what we're expecting out of 2022. So as far as operation, we're going to start expanding our team as well. So one thing that we started working with our business coach is getting an HR manager, and it really dawned on me a lot for like as last year closed out, it dawned on me how much that book that we read earlier is called Who Not How, like earlier in that year. That book is truly how you need to think as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, because I think we talked about this before the episode too, is that we as entrepreneurs, like just getting into it, think we have to do every single thing in a business, and every new thing that comes up, we need to do that too. And I started realizing that it's just unfeasible to maintain what you've already learned how to do and build, and then go figure out a whole new segment of business that you've never done before,
right,
and keep doing that over and over and over. At some point, you have the funds and the resources to go get the person that's already expert in that. You can learn from them while you're continuing moving forward, because what's really happening is that you try to learn this thing, you're slowing your business down because you're spending too much time trying to learn something.
Yeah.
So now you keep the business moving forward and faster while you learn along the way,
right,
with somebody who's already expert.
Ooh, I love this because I think more people need to understand this concept, and I'm so glad we got into real estate first, because the thing about real estate is investing is like, it really teaches you, like, you need, in order to do some of these deals, like, you need to have people. It's either you have money or you have people. Yep. And here's the thing, I take it further, it's like you either have money or you have time. Right, those are the two things.
That was it.
And for most new entrepreneurs, most people that are listening here to the show, you want to achieve financial freedom. You got a business, or maybe you want to get into business. You work in a job. You're not making too much money. You don't have a lot of money, so when your resources are limited in terms of monetarily, so you have to use what you have, which is time. If you ain't got money, you better have time. If you don't have money or time, then you in the wrong place. Go back to work. You need to get money first. So
that's it. Yeah, you're not at the step to be at this.
Yeah, you're
a step behind. So you need to go
right. Go back to the foundation.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. But if you don't have money, you have time, and if you have time, that means you can get the knowledge, and you can hustle to make things work. So in the beginning of entrepreneurship, when you're starting your business, you do everything yourself. You wear all the hats because you can't afford to outsource it, or you need to understand some of these things, especially the foundational things of business. Like, I need to understand how these things are done before I just go hire someone else to do it. I need to understand, because how do I know they're doing it right? Right? So in the beginning, like for the first year or so, you're doing everything. You're learning how to market. You're learning how to do sales. You're learning accounting. You're learning, all these different things in business. But at some point, you now have money. And now once you have money, now you can outsource a lot of those things, right? So I don't have to necessarily, now I want to get into commercial cleaning. For me specifically, I don't necessarily need to go learn how to prospect for commercial clients. I don't need to learn how to make a list. I don't need to learn how to cold call for these things. I don't need to go put together scripts. I don't need to go learn email outreach, cold email outreach. I don't need to learn, all these things. I can hire a company to do this for me, or I can outsource it myself. So and in business, it's always like, it's like I can either, and you can take it a step further. I can train someone, learn it myself, train someone, pay someone, get all the tech that I need to do, or I can go to a specialist that does this and pay them their flat rate, their fee, whatever, to do the same thing for me, and do it right? And from them, I can learn from them, right? I can learn it while we're also building the business. Because the thing is, you get to a certain point in your business where it's like, your time can't take you any really much further. It has to be now, like you said, who do you add to your team now? What new team members and resources can I add that's going to take me to that next level? Because it just doesn't scale like that. Like, I can guarantee you, Jeff Bezos building Amazon, he said himself, he was delivering a whole bunch of packages himself in the beginning. He was doing a lot of stuff, but eventually it got to a point where it's like, okay, dang, I need to get a warehouse. I need to get someone to, handle shipping. I need to get, a third party to do accounting. I need to hire other people, have, different team members on my team now, because now you have the resources, right? And that's why it's so important that we don't eat from the business. I feel like I'm gonna start talking about this every week because it's so big. Because it's like, I can see it for me too now, and it's like, I could very well be eating from my business and be eating good, or I can invest back into the business and grow the business and eat from that. I don't want, like I said, I don't care about I can't eat off of the money today. I want to eat from the money in the future. So that's kind of what I think that's a good point, man. Just in the sense of, all right, and it's dope to see that you kind of get into that stage.
Man, I think this is truly what separates like the small business owners from people who are able to become that big business. It's because of the fact that they understand this concept. Because what's really going to happen for those small business when they get to that level that they have to start going beyond them, they stop altogether, and they just say, okay, what's going to be required of me to take the next step to grow beyond this is something I'm uncomfortable with doing. So you know what? I'm cool with where I am.
In that flat line.
I'm on a flat line. And
actually,
with the
you're
business,
going to lose.
Yeah, so eventually you're going to go out of business because you're going to get outpaced by somebody else who decided to do a little bit extra, start outsourcing, and then overtake what you are doing. That literally is like the beginning of the end. If you are not willing to step outside of your comfort zone and say, I need to keep growing, but it doesn't have to just be me anymore. And all big businesses, you're not going to see an Apple with one employee. You're not going to see Amazon with one employee like this, or like one person running everything. You can't get there by yourself. You have to have at some point. It has to click and say, I need more people besides myself. Yeah. And so that's really what happened for us toward the end of last year, and that's where we are today. Now we're looking to get that HR manager.
Yeah, and that's big, man. I think once you bring on that first person, that's when you really start seeing like the bigger vision too. Like it becomes really clear, because now it's like, oh, it's not just me working for my business now. I got other people working on my behalf, even if they're not my direct hires, or they still they work for me because they work on my behalf. And that's a great. And the thing is, the way I love the times that we're in, because we have such a great opportunity to build robust big businesses with much less overhead. Like, it's not like it was 20 years ago when you had to go hire all these employees and do all these things. Like, bro, you can do things. You can have VAs overseas.
The virtual piece is huge.
Bro, you can have, other companies you hire to do things for you, that do things at a better pace. They've been doing this already for 10, 20 years. Imagine that. I can bring someone on. I can pay them much less than I would have paid an employee, had to train them, all these things. They can do something they're already good at for me on my behalf for a much cheaper cost. And I can get great results. That's big. Who, not how is huge, because you got to be the right person. You can't just bring a fool and think that, it's just because you brought someone is going to get you there. So it got to be the right person. So that's big, man. That's big.
How's business been for you?
Yeah, man. I mean, there it is. I don't know. I think, again, this year is so many things that I'm pushing for. So I really am in a place where I'm just trying to grow and reinvest back into the business as much as I can, because I know the potential that's right there. Like, I can see it's like you said, like you get to a certain point in business, like, bro, start making 50, 60,000 a month. Most people be like, shh, all right, I'm good. Like, yo, I'm making 5, 6, 7, 8, 10,000 to yourself. Most people, that's a 6-figure salary almost.
Yeah.
you good money off of that. And it's like, what is the vision? Like, what do you really want? What's bigger? What do you want to? If that's what you want, cool. Like, if that's all you ever wanted, cool. You can do that. But just understand, in business, it's kind of like there's no room for stagnation. There's no room for plateauing. It's either you're going up or you're going down. Because if you think you're plateauing, you're actually losing. Because I promise you, the thing about being comfortable and being okay is that things changing and you're not changing without it. But
That's
when you're
huge,
always
man.
continuing to grow and learn and elevate, you're continuing to learn new things as things change. And so you're staying up to date. So it's like, if I'm still continuing to do like if I've had a business for 20 years and I'm still doing the same thing that I was doing 20 years ago and thinking things are the same, you're completely fooled. And think about now, in 20 years from now, the things that work now are not going to work from today. Like, they might work great today, but it's going to be a new world that we live in. So you're going to have to adapt too. So there's no plateauing. So just know when you're in business, you have to always be looking for that next level. And that's why you got to bring other people into the business. But that's kind of where I am with my business. Figuring out this year, I think the biggest thing is, who am I bringing on that's going to help me get to that next level? And the way I'm, the investment I'm making into marketing for commercial contracts and those kinds of things, that's going to be big for me. Like I said last week, a $50,000 investment for the year, and that's like a lot of money, and that's very uncomfortable to make that kind of investment into something, especially when it's like, yo, I could be eating from this. Like, that's lifestyle money, honestly.
No doubt.
Like, that's lifestyle money. That's money that, like, I could use to get the new car, get the new place. All these things are things that I really want. But it's like, delay again. Delay again.
Man. And you
it's
can
just
have that
like,
level of self-control to continue to delay even though things are going a little bit better. Like, that's when you about to get a whole lot better. Like, it's lifestyle money, but how much lifestyle is it?
Exactly. That's why I said, man, what am I eating from today? I want to eat from that. I don't want to eat from this. This is Pebbles. I'm trying to eat from that fountain over there.
If you had that vision, if you actually, that's why it's so important to know what you want, though. It's like, if you know the potential of where you can go, and and that's your, like, part of your desire more so anything else, then you can at least have a reason to be delaying. Yeah. Because without that reason, you're probably going to just start eating from it, because now you're satisfied with your little success that you already achieved.
Facts.
Little is relative based on where you can be.
Yeah. So, speaking of knowing what you want, that's a great segue into our topic for today. So, one thing that recently happened, I think we have never talked about this to the way we're going to talk about it today, but it's something that a lot of people need to understand. So, I'll preface it. Last week, or a couple weeks ago, no, last week, really it was this week, but this is releasing at a different time. So, I tweeted something that was very interesting. It kind of went viral based off of what I kind of got back on Twitter, so I'm kind of new to
relative viral.
Yes, relative virality. So, I tweeted that in your 20s and 30s, net worth is meaningless. You should focus on cash flow and early retirement. Now, this is something that a lot of people, I wouldn't say took the wrong way, but a lot of people. So here, okay, I'll preface. So here, what is net worth, right? I want to say that for what is net worth? What is what net worth is essentially how much you are worth, your assets minus your liabilities, right? What is everything I own worth minus everything that I own that has debt or some sort of leverage to it, right? So if I have a house that's worth $200,000 and it has I have $50,000 left on the mortgage, that means that house is worth $150,000 to me, right? Meaning if I sold it, I would make $150,000, right? So it has $150,000 of equity. Same thing for jewelry, cars, stocks, crypto, paintings, all those things. Everything has some sort of value. Very simple financial education 101, right? That's net worth, right? And then cash flow is essentially, in the sense I'm talking about, cash flow is really just your income minus your expenses. That's cash flow, right? So you can have personal cash flow. Personal cash flow is what you make from your personal income minus your personal expenses. Business cash flow, which is your business's income minus your business's expenses, right? So all of that is cash flow, right? The thing about cash flow is that cash flow is something that you can achieve at any point in life, right? Cash flow it takes time, but you can achieve cash flow a lot faster than you can achieve necessarily a net worth gain. Because a lot of times net worth is really based off of time. Your net worth grows based off of time, right? So if I'm investing into the stock market over time, that compounds and I'm going to have a higher net worth, right? If I have real estate over time, it increases in value, right? But cash flow, I can control cash flow today. I can I can have cash flow now. I don't have to wait till I'm 65 to have cash flow, right? So most people understand retirement as an age and not a number. Most people think that retirement means that I have to be 65 to retire because that's when I'll have enough assets and net worth to be able to live off of, right? That's the wrong way to think of it. Why are you trying to live off of your assets and your equity rather than building cash flow today that you can live off of, right? Cash flow is what you need to live, right? If I have $1 million in net worth and I spend $50,000 a year, in what 15, 20 years, I'm going to be out of money. But if I have cash flow and I have consistent cash flow from businesses or real estate, I can continue to increase my lifestyle. I can continue to maintain my lifestyle as long as I have this cash flow, right? And the thing is about cash flow is usually backed by an asset that does have some sort of value. Cash flow is backed by, if I have cash flow from a rental property, it's backed by an asset that has value. If I have cash flow from a business, it's backed by a business that has some value. Because by definition, a business has value based off of the cash flow, based off of the income. So if I have cash flow, I have net worth. But if you have net worth, you don't necessarily have cash flow unless you have like dividend paying stocks or something. So anyways, I wanted to kind of get into, but before we get into like what I really want to talk to about, what do you think of this whole thing just on that, to that degree?
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head essentially with this comment talking about when you're younger, you should be focusing on cash flow but it's really going to be dictated by what your goals are. Because everybody's goal may not be to retire early. Now, if you shouldn't be listening to our podcast in the first place, so you probably wouldn't even resonate with that.
Right.
But if you're listening to this podcast, it probably means that you are looking to retire early. So our best advice is saying that cash flow should be king right now. There's a reason I came up with reasons behind that. So first off, the velocity of money is going to dictate, I guess, like the cash flow. No. I'm gonna backtrack with that. It's to really understand how the velocity of money works. So there's the net worth, which is going to come from like stable assets. Then the cash flow is going to come from like pushing money forward, like reinvesting it, building.
So explain velocity of money first.
Velocity of money. So it's like you can put your money into a savings account. It's parked essentially. It's not moving nowhere. It's not making you no more money. You need to get your money, taking it and putting it somewhere to make you more money. That's getting it moving.
Yes.
So now you're looking for, at a young age, especially like who you were talking to on that tweet, at a young age, how can I get my money working the fastest to give me the best return? And early on, parking it into like a long-term stable asset, let's say you put into like the stock market to get those dividend paying dividend paying stocks or something like that, it's moving. So it's not saying that it's bad, but it's not going to be the best use of it as far as right now, because it's not going to get you the lifestyle that you desire. It's not going to get you the best return to go get your money go and park it yourself into like a large apartment complex or something.
Right.
It's going to be very slow and steady at that point. The problem is that when you're young, this is where you need to be doing for one, you have the most energy to be going to get the most cash flow, because you have to understand how you are today versus how you will be 40 years from now. It's going to be two different people. So right now you need to be leveraging your cash as much as possible. So I'm trying to not even be liquid. My money should be somewhere making more money, because when I'm older, I'm not going to want to do all this no more. I got the energy right now to do all that. Right. So to go build businesses, to let one flop and go start another one until I figure out what works best for me. This is the best time to do that. So I can't put my money to sit somewhere on the side, because that's what's allowing me to go start these different ventures. The cash that I have right now can help me start a business that can bring in cash flow, provide lifestyle, but also allow me to reinvest back into like the long-term assets later. And that's what's going to build the net worth up. Yeah. If I focus on net worth right now, how much net worth are we really talking about? Because I haven't put my money to use to get anything sizable.
Yeah, and exactly, and that's my whole point with it too, because it's like net worth is really a lot of times it's dictated by time. It really just takes time to build net worth, but it doesn't take as much time to build cash flow. Cash flow comes, if you can build something valuable, if you can have an asset that has value. And like I said, man, when you have cash flow, you typically have some degree of net worth, but it doesn't necessarily work vice versa. When you go focus on net worth, you might not get cash flow, because cash flow typically comes once there's a transaction happening. There needs to be some sort of transaction. So in order for there to be a transaction, whether that is you're receiving a rent payment or someone's paying your business, then you have to be providing some sort of value. When you go invest in the stock market and you're just buying stocks, you're not necessarily providing direct value. It's indirect value, but you're not providing direct value. So when you're younger, like you said, man, you have more time to focus on how can you provide value? How can I add value to society so that I can get cash flow in return? Right. I give value, I'm giving cash flow. So the reason this conversation is important is I wanted to talk about this not because of the concepts, on the foundational concepts like we talked about, but because this is important, because a lot of people don't necessarily understand like that what you're doing has to be dictated by what you actually want in life, right? So what do I mean by that? Right now, we're in an era where we're in the information age. Information is everywhere. So it's very easy to come across something where you're on YouTube, you're on Instagram, you're on TikTok, you're on Twitter, and someone's giving you information, financial advice, whatever. And they're saying, oh, my favorite one. If you invest $100 a month from the age of 25 to the age of 65 in the S&P 500, you will retire with $1 million.
Define retirement in that.
So I can have $1 million when I'm 65. That's what you're telling me.
Okay, yeah.
I can have $1 million once I'm 65 if I invest $100 a month. Mm-hmm. Cool. So someone will hear that and be like, "Oh, that's good. That's more than what I knew before. That's good. I'm gonna just do that," without ever asking, "Why am I doing this? Is this actually getting me to what I actually want?" Meanwhile, someone else is preaching the whole concept of invest your money into real estate that can pay you monthly. Invest your money into a course where you can learn a business that will give you cash flow and allow you to retire early. Two people could have got two different pieces of information, and because neither of them even knew what they wanted. They just happened to get two pieces of information. They will end up in two very different places. And that's not right or wrong, but just because, let's just keep it objective. Someone tells you invest into the S&P 500 invest into the stock market for the next 40 years. You have $1 million. You think that's a good idea because you don't know anything else. You do that. Someone tells me, oh, invest into a business or real estate and get $200 a month in cash flow from a rental property and $1,000 a month in cash flow from this business. I think it's a good idea because I never heard nothing. I do that. We're going to end up in different places. You'll probably still be in your job in 40 years, and I'll be retired on the beach at 25 because we just happen to get two different pieces of information, right? But if that person, here's the thing, and this is why it's very important. This is the crux of everything. If I understand what I actually want, I know what I need to listen to and what I don't need to listen to.
That's it.
Right? Because me personally, I see a lot of stuff that's just noise. I'm scrolling Instagram, I'm scrolling Twitter, I'm scrolling TikTok, I'm scrolling social media, YouTube, especially, and I see a lot of stuff that's like, oh, you're talking about investing in the stock market. I don't even need to pay attention to you. I'll scroll past this. Has nothing to do with what I want. Not saying it's not good information, just not pertinent to what I want, right? If I see someone now talking about, oh, this real estate strategy to get an infinite return in cash flow on a rental property, oh, that's kind of interesting because I know what I want. I want financial freedom at age 25. That can get me there. So now I know what to pay attention to and what not to. Very, 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 very key to understand what you want. Please.
I mean, that really just drilled in on my same point I was going to make, was that's like the number one thing that you have to first identify before you get on your research phase of it all. If you don't know what you want out the gate, then anything is going to sound really good to you. Yeah. Everything is going to sound like an opportunity. That's what I want to hit on that, because like you said, there's so much information now that everything's gonna look like an opportunity for somebody who doesn't know what they want. But in reality, most of these are distractions. You call them noise, I call them distractions. They're just distracting you from what's actually viable to you, and as far as the path you need to go down to achieve what it is that you actually want.
Yeah.
But if you don't know that first initial thing of what it is that do I want in life and how fast do I want to get it, then yes, you're going to jump in on any and everything. So everybody's advice is going to sound good to you. Yep. I pointed out earlier that the advice we're giving, that's you have to keep that in mind. Everybody that you're listening to has a target audience. You as an audience member needs to have a target influencer or what is your ideal influencer look like? The person that you're looking to learn from, what would they be teaching you? So, as an influencer, we think about it and vice versa. We say, who is our target audience? What do they want to hear? You need to be thinking of, I want this. Who do I need? Who has, like, what is that person that has information? What are they going to be saying? What's their conversation going to be like? I don't know. I think you said Susie Orman was who said, like, talk about the investing in the S&P 500, $200 a month or something.
Yeah.
Who is her target audience? What does that look like? She's just said at the end, you'll be able to retire as a millionaire at age 65. That is her target audience. Somebody who wants to retire at age 65, well off, like $1 million. But if your goal, that's why I said the number one thing is to know what is it you want. If your goal was to retire at age 25, that sounds terrible, because of the fact that you know what you want and you know what she said. Those two don't match. So it's not that it was bad, but it's not for me as a target audience. And that's why you need to know what do you want, and be able to spot out who's giving advice to cater towards what I want. Because the biggest thing for me also is this: there is a way to achieve whatever it is that you want. And one thing I thought about was Grant Cardone on Undercover Billionaire. This dude built a $5 million business in 90 days from nothing. That means that anything and everything is possible. You need the right information, but you can't get information from somebody saying we can become a millionaire by age 65 and think it's going to still work for you to get your original goal. You need to find who has information that's going to help me get to my goal in my time frame.
Right. And that's a very good thing to understand, because in this day and age, it's so easy to you can get paralyzed because you don't know who to listen to. Right, you got the Ramsey guy over here telling you, telling you to not to invest into real estate, not to have any debt. You got Robert Kiyosaki over here telling you to get assets, get more into debt. You got Gary Vee telling you, post content, become an influencer, get monetized that way. You got Grant Cardone telling you invest in real estate. You got Money Monopolizers over here telling you invest into education to start your business, bro. You got to know what you actually want, because it's a lot of people telling you things that it's not going to be for you. It all sounds good because you know how to frame it. We know how to frame it to sound good, right? Dave Ramsey knows how to say what he says to sound good. Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, Robert Kiyosaki, they all know how to say it good. We all know we can say it really good. I can guarantee you're listening to this and like, man, that's good. But we just know how to say it really good. Everybody.
It's not even just that, but like I said, we know who we're talking to. It's like there's a person out there that needs that information. So It sounds great and it's made for that person. But if you're not that person, you shouldn't be following that information.
Yeah. And all of it is good info. It's all good information, and it could apply to anyone. But you just have to know if applying it for you is going to yield you the result that you actually want for your own life. Because if it isn't, then bro, I'm going to tell you, keep listening to our show, but it's I don't know.
I've seen the listeners drop.
Yeah, I ain't gonna tell you to leave, but I mean, when it comes, a few years from now, and you're not what you want, and it's like you gotta kind of look at what was I actually listening to, what was I taking in, what information was I following that didn't get me to, the result that I ultimately wanted, right? And so this is a very important thing because, a lot of people took what I said, in a certain way of like, which I'm not. It is what it is. It's the internet. You post something on the internet, you're gonna have opposing views. It's totally fine. But my whole thing was I wasn't talking to everyone. I was only talking to certain people. Obviously, if you hear me say that net worth is meaningless in your 20s and 30s, then obviously it's not. And what you want is not what I want. Then it's not for you. I told you, you can. you can retire today at 25, 35, 45 based off the information that is out here in the world, right? That you can learn from real teachers, real entrepreneurs, not fake school teachers. You can learn how to start businesses that make $5, $10, $50,000 a month, right? Off of a $100 internet course, right? If you buy the right course, if you get the right information. So so when I say certain things, it's targeted for certain people. So understand who is the person that's saying what you're listening to? Who are they is the message they're trying to get across to those people?
And at some point, they're going to reveal like who they're talking to. Because I thought about the example, why? Like I remember very early on in our journey, you did listen to Dave Ramsey's like his videos.
Chill,
I want to point out though, this is a good point with it.
Chill.
What did he say? We gotta bring it back. What did he say that made you stop wanting to listen?
He was saying how debt is bad,
and he said something else with it, I thought. But so he said debt is bad.
He said don't invest in the real estate and don't get into debt, and that was completely contradictory to what Robert Kiyosaki, my idol, was saying. No,
that makes sense then. So he was saying don't get any debt. And so my point was that they're going to start revealing to you like who they're talking to, because they may not say point blank, I'm talking to this person who has this goal, but you have to start pointing out indicators independently. Like you have to spot out what are they saying, and does this align with my goals? And then also, because we have the information, you have other people to reference. Like you had Robert Kiyosaki to reference, be like, no, he's saying that, and I can see that plan matching my goal in my timeline a lot better than this guy right here. You have great points. Everything you're saying makes sense, but not for me. And you got to be okay with understanding that everybody's not for you. And so that's but once you identify that, be okay with dropping them off. That was to your point, to your credit. Once you identify that he didn't have the same philosophy that was aligned with your goals, you dropped him off quickly. Yeah, because you knew that wasn't going to help you get to your goal on your timeline.
Exactly. Yeah. So we don't follow Dave Ramsey advice around here. Anybody that's listening, stop listening to Dave Ramsey. Well, no. Here's the thing too, because the thing is like, and we talked about this before though, but there's good information for different stages of your life.
That's
right?
Huge.
So it's things that Dave Ramsey will say that's good for a certain stage of your life, right? When you're stuck in mountains of debt, you got bad spending habits. All these different things, please, you should listen to him and take what he says seriously. But as soon as you get out of debt, as soon as you get back to level zero, because you started in the negative. Once you get back to level zero, you got good spending habits, you got out of debt, all these things, throw them away. Put them away, put the book on the bookshelf, give it away. Now it's time to change your mentor. But again, that's if you want something different than what he's saying. If you are okay with working your job, retiring at 65, probably 75, the way the world's looking, living for the next 11 years after that and dying, living that life, cool, keep listening to Dave Ramsey. But if you want something else, you want financial freedom, you want to retire early, you want to have, a certain lifestyle of luxuries and riches, then he's not going to get you there. Because a lot of things he says does not align with that. You had to find someone else to listen to. You had to find someone else to get your information from. So the reason this is an important conversation is because a lot of people that even listen to stuff, you're listening because, again, it just sounds good because it's different from what you heard. You're listening because, like, it's just like, this is new, this is good. But understand what you're listening to. If you aren't aware, like I said, it'll be two people. They get two different pieces of information. Neither of them were aware of what they were actually getting, but they listened to both. You end up in a different place. I would have been hurt, man, if I never found financial freedom and I was only on that world of limiting bad debt and buying stocks and all that stuff. And I find out in 15, 20 years that, oh, wow, I could have actually bought assets that would have retired me. Man, I wish I would have knew that 20 years ago. So, yeah, man.
I think this is a good point to bring up, that just because somebody doesn't have understand, everybody is, you're your own person, for one. So that means that your journey is not necessarily going to be tailor-made after one mentor. Every stage of life, you're going to go through you're going to get a new mentor. Once you like to your point earlier with the debt part, the debt conversation. If you're in terrible debt, your first conversation needs to be with the Dave Ramsey and trying to figure out how to get out of debt.
Yeah, just endure it.
So endure it because it's going to be great information. It's going to help you. I think relate back to episode 102 with Anthony and Janilka. They started off with being Dave Ramsey fanatics because of their situation. Their situation was that they were mountain high in debt. So they had to get out of that particular era of their life. But once you make it out, once you hit that debt-free scream, I think he has, once you get to that level, now you have to figure out, do I want to continue on with this mentor or should I move on? There was a, the movie King Richard is another good example because Serena and Venus's dad was trying to find different mentors for them to learn how to play tennis, but he was trying to find like coaches that were coaching at higher levels. Mm-hmm. He was working with one coach for a minute. He sought him out heavily. He was trying, I need you to coach my kids. Literally, that coach showed him a video, and the video is showcasing like another coach. Like, bro, this the best coach in the land right here. Yeah. Like maybe another couple months went by that he was working with that coach, with the current coach, and then he just said, "All right, your services are no longer needed. We're done with you." I said, "Yo, that's cold," but that represents what it looks like to leave one mentor and know when it's time, because at some point you reach a certain level with a certain mentor, they can't take you to the true promised land that you're trying to get to. Yeah, you need to move on to the next person, because they may be able to get you to a certain level, but at some point it's like, if I want to scale faster, I need the next person, and it'd be okay with that, because that's why I said you are living your life. You don't need to model after one person. You can model after this person up to this point, model after this person to that next point, and that can all help you shape who you are on your journey. Mm-hmm. And so that's my takeaway from that, man.
I love it, man. That's really all I have for that specific conversation, but it's a lot of things for people to take from that, especially a lot of people I know listening are new to entrepreneurship, business, investing. So this is a good thing for people to listen to, because you need to understand, if even for us, like, make sure what we're saying is like aligned with what you want. So I know a lot of people probably got butthurt by me talking about Dave Ramsey. Maybe what we're saying is not aligned with what you want, or maybe you're just, in that phase of you're still, you got Dave Ramsey on your underwear. So that's totally fine. You'll get out of it. But yeah, that's I don't know. I think that's a very important conversation. So what we'll do now is transition to our next segment. Wait, do we have any questions?
I just thought about that. Just at the last second, I said, "Dang, I ain't even look for a question."
Well, let's take a slight intermission to see if we have any questions.
So I at least wanted to ask something, even if we make one up.
And you just gonna let the people know that?
No, I was hoping you was gonna cut this part out.
Nope, they heard that.
How can I be successful? How can I follow the path that someone else has laid for me to be successful?
Ask the Monopolizers.
You know what? It was indirect. But I do want to answer this one.
Oh, we got one. Okay, let's go.
So this is really for me on this part. So we had a podcast guest that reached out to me to do a joint venture, an opportunity, but apparently he thought the joint venture work a little bit differently. So I actually want to explain, because that was his question, like, how does a joint venture partnership work? So I mentioned earlier that we bought on 10 different cars from one of our partners. What that means is that instead of us buying all of our cars ourselves, what we're looking to do is expand our fleet by partnering with more people. And so what that looks like now is somebody can have a car that they don't use. So let's say you have like 3 cars in your family. Y'all drive 2 of them, and another car is just sitting there. You can either provide that car that you have. You can finance a car. Like, if you have a great credit, you can finance one. If you have a lot of cash, you can buy a car in cash. All those are different ways for you to add a car to our fleet. So we run the fleet out here in Houston. And we're going to add it to our fleet. And what you're going to do is collect a passive check every single month in exchange for you putting up the car. And we can talk much more in detail, but that's how the joint venture works, is that you don't do any of the work. All you do is provide the car, the income, or the credit in order to get a car, and then we run it in our fleet here in Houston. And so that just to answer that question, to make that clear for anybody who is looking to do a joint venture partnership with us. What did they think it was? He thought it was going to be where we run, we have a team of people that we will build out in his location.
Okay.
And so like we have because I guess he heard the SOPs that we talk about all the time. He thought that we would take so pretty much like a franchise essentially. Like there's cars out there. We take like McDonald's. We build a infrastructure out there, which was probably gonna be what we do in the future, to be honest. Or that's something that's a potential possibility, as far as getting multiple locations. But as far as right now, we're building our infrastructure here in Houston. Going to get everything in place as far as standard operating procedures for how to operate with other people's vehicles, also here in Houston. And then we're going to start looking elsewhere. So that's how we run it right now.
It's nice. Well, that would be nice if that ends up actually happening based off of having that conversation.
He put a bug in our ear for that. I was like, that's a really good idea, to be honest. So that might be something in our future.
Dope. Yeah. Well, that's it for that segment, and we will transition to our last segment, which is take it or leave it.
We gave you the game. You can
Take it or leave it.
So yes, for this episode, look, at the end of the day, my only takeaway is that you understand what you ultimately want in your life when it comes to really everything, but specifically when it comes to, your financial well-being. Do you want to just, be a 9-to-5 slave, retire at 75, and live that life? Or do you want financial freedom? Do you want to live a certain lifestyle? Can you tell I'm biased? Okay, what do you actually want? Please understand that, and then know whether the person that you listen to, whether the information you take in daily, does it apply to that? And that way you can now know what else is like noise or a distraction that you don't need to necessarily pay attention to, because it's not getting you closer to what you ultimately want. If you ultimately do want, to live a 9-to-5 life, that's on you. And that I'm not even gonna say what I was thinking, but that's totally fine. You can do that. So that's my takeaway.
Yes, sir. And then for me, my takeaway is really to audit your mentors. So audit anybody that you listen to, and understand that every advice that they give may not be applicable to you. And understand that doesn't mean that everything that they say isn't applicable, but understand that they're not perfect. So their advice especially is not perfect with everything that you may want to have for your life. So you need to identify what it is that you do want, like Alex said, and then figure out what it is that they're saying that identifies with it and what it is that doesn't. And then at some point you may say, okay, this mentor has nothing else that I can gain of value to, so now I need to go ahead and end this season of my life and transition to the next one. And to understand that that's okay for you, because this is your life. You're living it. Nobody else can do it for you. And nobody else will do it for you. So it's up to you to make it the best one.
And that's a fact. Well, that is it for this episode of the Money Monopolizers podcast. New episodes will be released every Thursday and will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Just search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, we'd appreciate if you rated us 5 stars and left us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can also find out more info about us on Twitter at the Monopolizers, or IG at Money Monopolizers. We post informative content on there that'll keep you engaged, so be sure to check that out and share those posts. But until then, we're out of here.
You've been listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. To learn more about how you can be in control of your money, visit moneymonopolizers.com. We'll catch you next time when Alex and Marlon share more personal finance and wealth creation tips with you. Now it's time to take action.